It started with a small sound, a sound so quiet that most people would probably ignore it. But for me, it was enough to make me stop breathing for a moment. It was late in the evening, the kind of evening where everything feels still. No traffic, no loud music, no voices outside, just the soft hum of my refrigerator and the ticking of the clock on the wall. I remember looking at the time, 10:47 p.m. I had just finished washing the dishes. My hands were still a little wet, and I was about to turn off the kitchen light when I heard it. A thud, not very loud, but not normal either. It came from next door, from my neighbor's house. I froze. I stood there, completely still, trying to listen. For a few seconds, there was nothing, just silence again. I told myself, it's probably nothing. Maybe something fell. Maybe he dropped a chair. Maybe I was just overthinking. I turned off the light, walked slowly to my bedroom, sat down on the edge of my bed, and tried to relax. But something didn't feel right. You know that feeling? When your mind keeps going back to the same small moment, again and again. That sound, that strange, heavy sound. I lay down, closed my eyes, and tried to sleep. But then, another sound. This time, it was clearer. A dragging noise, slow, rough, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. My eyes opened immediately. I sat up. My heart started beating faster. I looked at the wall. The wall that separates my house from his, the neighbor. I didn't know him very well. We had only spoken a few times. Short conversations, simple greetings. Good morning. Nice weather today. That kind of thing. He lived alone, at least. I thought he did. He was quiet. Too quiet, maybe. No visitors, no music, no laughter. Just silence. Every day. And now, these sounds. At night. I stood up slowly, walked closer to the wall, as if somehow that would help me hear better. The dragging sound stopped. Again. Silence. But this silence felt different, heavier, uncomfortable. I held my breath, waiting, listening, and then a soft sound, like a voice. Or maybe just air moving. I wasn't sure. My mind started to imagine things. Too many things. What if something is wrong? What if someone is hurt? What if... I shook my head. No, don't jump to conclusions. I walked back to my bed, sat down again, picked up my phone, put it down, picked it up again. I didn't know what to do. I told myself, if it happens again, I'll do something. So I waited. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, nothing. Just when I started to calm down, a loud bang. This time, there was no doubt. Something was wrong. My heart was racing now, fast, loud. I could feel it in my chest. I stood up again, walked to the window, looked outside. Everything was dark, no movement, no lights from his house. That was strange. Why were the lights off? If he was awake, why was everything dark? I felt a cold sensation run down my back. My thoughts became louder, more intense. What if he's in danger? What if someone broke in? What if? I stopped, took a deep breath, tried to think clearly. Maybe there was a simple explanation. Maybe I was overreacting. But then, that dragging sound again, slower this time, heavier, and this time, I was sure it was real. I looked at my phone again. My hand was slightly shaking. I unlocked it, opened the call screen, then stopped. My thumb hovered over the numbers. I hesitated. This could be nothing. I could be wrong. What if I call and it's just something normal? I imagined the embarrassment. The police arriving, my neighbor opening the door, confused, everything being fine, And me, standing there, feeling foolish. I almost put the phone down. Almost. But then, a sound I will never forget. A low sound. A weak sound. Like someone trying to speak, but not having enough strength. That was it. That moment. Something inside me changed. Fear turned into urgency. Doubt turned into action. I didn't think anymore. I just moved. I pressed the numbers, dialed, held the phone to my ear. Each second felt longer than usual. Then, a voice answered, calm, professional. Emergency services. What is your situation? I swallowed, tried to speak clearly. I I think something is wrong next door. My voice sounded different, tighter, uncertain. I heard loud noises, something heavy, and now I think someone might be hurt. There was a short pause. The voice replied, can you confirm the address? I gave it, slowly, carefully, trying not to make a mistake. Stay on the line, they said. Officers are on the way. Officers are on the way. The words echoed in my mind, and suddenly, everything felt more real, more serious. I walked to the door, opened it slowly, stepped outside. The night air felt colder than before, quieter, too quiet. I looked at my neighbor's house, dark, still, silent, and for the first time, I felt something I hadn't felt before. Not just fear, not just curiosity, but something deeper, something heavier, a question, a single question that stayed in my mind. What if I was too late? I stood outside for a moment, holding my phone in my hand, still connected to the operator. The night felt colder now, not because the temperature had changed, but because everything felt uncertain. Are you in a safe place? The voice asked. I looked around. My street was empty. No cars, no people. Just the quiet line of houses sleeping under dim streetlights. Yes, I said softly. I'm outside my house. Good, the operator replied calmly. Please stay there. Do not approach the neighbor's house. I nodded, even though they couldn't see me. I understand. But my eyes stayed fixed on that house. The windows were dark. No movement. No sound. It didn't look like anything was happening. And yet, just minutes ago, I was sure something was very wrong. My mind started to question everything again. Did I make a mistake? Was I too quick to call? What if it was nothing? I shifted my weight from one foot to the other. My heart was still beating fast, but now it was mixed with something else. Doubt. The kind of doubt that slowly grows when there is too much silence. Can you still hear anything? The operator asked. I held my breath, listened carefully. Nothing. No, I said. It's completely quiet now. There was a short pause. That's okay, the voice said. Officers are already on their way. You did the right thing by calling. Did I? I wanted to believe that. I really did. But the longer I stood there, looking at that quiet, dark house, the more unsure I felt. A few minutes passed. Then I saw it. Blue lights, flashing at the end of the street. My chest tightened. They're here, I whispered. Yes, the operator replied. You can end the call now. The officers will take over. Thank you, I said. My voice felt small. I ended the call. The silence returned, but this time it didn't feel empty. It felt heavy. The police car moved slowly down the street, and the blue lights reflecting off windows, walls, and the pavement. It stopped in front of my neighbor's house. Two officers stepped out. Their movements were calm, but focused. One of them looked in my direction. I hesitated for a second, then raised my hand slightly. I'm the one who called, I said. They walked toward me. Can you tell us what you heard? one of them asked. His voice was steady, professional. I tried to explain. The sounds, they started maybe 15 minutes ago, I said. A loud thud, then something like dragging, and then a voice, I think. You think? He repeated gently. I'm not completely sure, I admitted, but it sounded like someone was in trouble. The officer nodded. You did the right thing by calling, he said. Again, those words, but this time they didn't fully calm me. The other officer was already walking toward the house. He knocked on the door, once, twice, 3 times, loud, clear. Police, please open the door. We waited. No response. The officer knocked again, harder this time. Still nothing. The 2 officers exchanged a quick look. Something silent passed between them. Something I couldn't fully understand, but I could feel. Tension. One of them turned back to me. Do you know if your neighbor lives alone? He asked. I think so, I said. I've never seen anyone else there. He nodded. Then they moved closer to the door. One officer tried the handle, locked. Of course it was locked. Everything about this moment felt like something from a movie. But this wasn't a movie. This was real. And I was standing right there, watching it happen. The officer knocked again, louder than before. Police! Open the door! Still no answer. My stomach tightened. What if he's inside and can't move? What if he needs help right now? I took a small step forward without even realizing it. Sir, please stay back, one of the officers said firmly. I stopped immediately. Sorry, I said. My voice felt distant, like it didn't belong to me. The officers stepped aside for a moment, speaking quietly to each other. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see their expressions. Focused, serious. After a few seconds, one of them reached for his radio. He spoke quickly, requesting something. Backup? Permission? I didn't know. Everything felt slow, but also too fast at the same time. I looked at the house again, the same dark windows, the same silence. But now, it felt different, like the house was holding something inside, something hidden, something waiting to be discovered. A few more minutes passed. Then, another sound. But this time, it didn't come from inside the house. It came from behind me. A car. Slowly approaching. I turned around. Headlights. A car moving down the street. Not a police car. Just a normal car. It slowed down as it got closer, then stopped, right in front of the house. The engine turned off, the door opened, and someone stepped out, a man. He looked confused, tired. He looked at the police officers, then at me, then back at the house. What's going on? He asked. One of the officers stepped forward. Do you live here? He asked. Yes, the man replied. My heart skipped a beat. That was him, my neighbor. He was outside, not inside. Then, who was inside the house? Or was anyone inside at all? The officer spoke again. We received a call about possible disturbance and someone in danger. The man frowned. In danger? He repeated. Yes, loud noises were reported. The man looked genuinely surprised. No, I just got home, he said. He held up his keys slightly, as if to prove it. I've been out all evening. The air around me suddenly felt heavier. My thoughts became louder, faster. If he wasn't inside, then what did I hear? The officer glanced at the house, then back at the man. Can you open the door for us? He asked. Of course, the man said quickly. He walked toward the door, unlocked it, and slowly pushed it open. The officers stepped forward, carefully, alert. They entered the house. One of them turned back briefly. "Please stay here," he said to both of us. We nodded, and just like that, they disappeared inside. The door remained slightly open, a small gap, just enough to let the silence escape. I stood there next to my neighbor. Neither of us spoke. The seconds felt longer now, much longer. He looked at me. "Did you call?" he asked quietly. I hesitated, then nodded. "Yes." He didn't look angry, just confused. "What did you hear?" he asked. I tried to explain again. The sounds, the thud, the dragging, the voice. As I spoke, I started to hear it again in my mind. And suddenly, it didn't sound as clear as before. It didn't feel as certain. He listened carefully, then slowly shook his head. "That's strange," he said. I wasn't even home. We both turned toward the open door, waiting, listening, hoping for something, anything. A sign, a sound, footsteps, voices. Finally, after what felt like forever, one of the officers appeared in the doorway. His expression was different now, not tense, not urgent, just calm, too calm. He looked at us, then said something I didn't expect to hear. "There's no one inside." My breath caught in my throat. No one? Then what did I hear? The officer continued. "We checked every room." He paused for a moment, then added, "But we did find something." My heart started beating again. Fast, loud. "What is it?" my neighbor asked. The officer looked at both of us, and for a brief second, his eyes rested on me, as if he already knew what I was thinking. And then he said, "I think you should both come take a look." I didn't move at first. The officer's words stayed in the air, hanging there, heavy, uncomfortable. "I think you should both come take a look." My neighbor stepped forward before I did. "Is everything okay?" he asked. The officer didn't answer immediately. He simply stepped aside, holding the door open a little wider. "You can come in," he said calmly. Something in his tone made my chest tighten. Not fear, not exactly, but something close to it. Uncertainty, the kind that makes your mind go quiet. My neighbor walked inside. I followed a few steps behind, hesitating just for a moment before crossing the doorway. The air inside the house felt different, still, cool, and strangely, empty. Not empty like no furniture, but empty like no life, no movement, no sound, no presence. The living room was simple: a couch, a small table, a lamp in the corner. Everything looked normal, too normal. There were no signs of a struggle, no broken objects, no overturned furniture, nothing that matched the sounds I had heard. My eyes moved slowly across the room, searching for something, anything, that could explain it. "I don't understand," my neighbor said softly. His voice sounded smaller now, like mine had earlier. "I left everything like this." One of the officers nodded. "So it seems," he replied. The other officer stood near a hallway, leading deeper into the house. "This way," he said, and we followed him. Each step felt louder than it should, even though we were walking slowly, carefully. The hallway was narrow, dim. The light switch was on, but the light itself felt weak. There were 3 doors, one slightly open, 2 closed. The officer gently pushed the open door wider. "A bedroom," he said. We looked inside. A neatly made bed, a chair, a closet, nothing unusual, nothing out of place. My neighbor shook his head. "Everything looks normal," he said. The officer didn't respond. He moved to the next door, opened it, another bedroom. Similar, clean, quiet, still nothing. Then, the last door, at the end of the hallway, closed, The officer stopped in front of it. For a moment, no one moved. I could hear my own breathing, slow, careful, too loud in the silence. The officer reached for the handle, paused, then turned it slowly. The door opened. A soft, creaking sound filled the hallway. Inside was a small room. Not a bedroom. Not exactly. More like a storage space. Boxes, old furniture, a few stacked items covered in cloth. And then I saw it. Something on the floor, near the center of the room. A long object, covered, partially hidden under a blanket. My heart stopped for a second. That's it, I thought. That's what I heard. The dragging, the thud. It had to be. My neighbor stepped forward quickly. "What is that?" he asked. The officer raised his hand slightly. "Please, wait," he said. He walked slowly into the room, carefully, as if not wanting to disturb anything. He crouched down, reached for the blanket, and pulled it back. I held my breath, waiting, my mind already imagining the worst. But then, something unexpected. It wasn't a person. It wasn't anything dangerous. It was a large wooden cabinet, old, heavy, lying on its side. The blanket had been covering part of it. My neighbor blinked, confused. That, that wasn't like that before, he said. "You're sure?" the officer asked. "Yes," he replied. "I always keep it against the wall." We all looked at the cabinet. It was clearly heavy. Not something that would fall easily, and definitely not something that would move on its own. "But I wasn't home," my neighbor said again. His voice was tighter now, more serious. The officer stood up slowly. He looked around the room, then at the cabinet, then at the floor, and then he noticed something. "Look at this," he said. We stepped closer, carefully. On the floor next to the cabinet, there were marks, long, thin marks, like something had been dragged. My stomach dropped. "That's the sound," I whispered. "That's what I heard. The dragging, slow, heavy." The officer nodded slightly. "It seems something moved this," he said. "But how?" my neighbor asked. No one answered, because no one knew. Or at least, no one had said it yet. The officer walked to the wall, ran his hand along it, then stopped. "There's a small gap here," he said. We looked closer. There was a narrow space between the cabinet and the wall, almost invisible at first glance. The officer leaned in, shining his flashlight inside. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing something hidden, something small, something alive. "It's okay," the officer said softly. His voice changed completely, gentler now, careful. "Come here," he called to his partner. The second officer stepped closer. "What is it?" my neighbor asked. The first officer slowly reached into the gap, very carefully, as if afraid to scare whatever was inside. A moment passed, then another, and then he pulled something out, something small, something trembling. It was a dog, a small dog, thin, shaking. Its fur was dirty, its eyes wide with fear. My breath caught. "Oh," I whispered. The dog made a soft sound, a weak, trembling sound. The same sound I had heard earlier, the same sound that made me call. "That was the voice," I said quietly. The officer nodded. "It must have been trapped," he said. My neighbor stepped closer, his eyes widened. "I've never seen this dog before," he said. The officer gently held the dog. "It probably got inside somehow," he explained. And when it got stuck behind the cabinet, it panicked. The room suddenly made sense. The thud, the cabinet falling, the dragging, the weak sounds, everything connected. Not danger, not violence, just fear. a scared animal trapped in a dark space trying to get out. I felt something shift inside me, relief, but also something else, something heavier, guilt. I thought, I began, then stopped. I didn't know how to finish that sentence. I thought something terrible was happening. The officer looked at me. You responded to what you heard, he said calmly. You didn't ignore it. But still, I couldn't shake the feeling. I had imagined something much worse, something darker, something that wasn't real. The dog looked up at us, still shaking, still afraid, but alive, safe. My neighbor let out a slow breath. I guess we all misunderstood the situation, he said. I nodded, slowly. Yes, we did. But in that moment, as I stood there, looking at that small, frightened animal, I realized something important. Sometimes the sounds we hear are not what we think they are, but the choice we make when we hear them, that matters. And I still didn't know if I'd made the right choice, but I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't the end of the story. Not yet. For a few moments, no one said anything. The room was quiet again, but this time, it was a different kind of quiet. Not tense, not fearful, just still. The officer held the small dog gently, supporting its body with both hands. It's very weak, he said softly. I looked closer. The dog's ribs were visible. Its breathing was fast, shallow. It wasn't just scared, it had been struggling for a while. How long do you think it's been in there? My neighbor asked. The officer shook his head slightly. Hard to say, he replied, but long enough to be exhausted. The dog let out a small sound again, a quiet whimper. The same sound, the sound that had started everything. I felt it again. That strange mix of emotions, relief, because there was no danger, no crime, no one hurt, but also a quiet discomfort, because I had imagined something worse, much worse. I'm sorry, I said suddenly. Both the officer and my neighbor looked at me. I thought something terrible was happening, I continued. My voice felt tight. I didn't know it was just this. The officer didn't react immediately. He adjusted his hold on the dog, then looked at me calmly. You heard something unusual, he said. You chose to act. He paused. That's not something to apologize for. My neighbor nodded slowly. Honestly, he said, I'm glad you called. I looked at him surprised. You are? I asked. Yes, he replied. He glanced at the dog. If you hadn't, it might still be stuck there. I followed his gaze. The small animal in the officer's arms looked fragile, tired, but alive. That word stayed in my mind, alive, because of a mistake or because of a decision. I wasn't sure anymore. What should we do with it? My neighbor asked. The officer thought for a moment. It needs care, he said. Food, water, possibly a vet. I can take it, my neighbor said quickly. I mean, if no one claims it? The officer gave a small nod. That would be a good start. He carefully handed the dog over. My neighbor held it gently, a little awkward at first, as if he wasn't used to it. But then, something changed. His grip softened, his posture relaxed, and his voice, when he spoke again, was quieter. It's okay, he whispered to the dog. You're safe now. The dog didn't respond much, just a slight movement, a weak blink, but it was enough. We slowly walked back toward the living room. Everything looked the same as before. The couch, the table, the lamp, nothing had changed. And yet, everything felt different. The officers exchanged a few final words with my neighbor. Simple instructions, basic advice. Then they turned to leave. If you notice anything else unusual, don't hesitate to call, one of them said. I nodded. I will. They stepped outside. The blue lights returned for a moment, then faded as the car drove away. And just like that, it was over. Or at least, it should have been. But I didn't move. I stayed standing there, inside the house. My neighbor was sitting on the couch now, the dog resting in his lap. He looked up at me. You can come in, he said gently. I realized I was still near the door, half inside, half outside. I stepped in fully, closed the door behind me. Thanks, I said, for understanding. He gave a small smile. I think we both misunderstood something tonight, he said. I nodded. Yes, we did, but in different ways. I sat down across from him. For a moment, we just sat there in silence, listening to the dog's quiet breathing, watching it slowly calm down. I always thought this place was empty, I said after a while. My neighbor raised an eyebrow. Empty? Yes, I explained. Quiet, no noise, no activity. He looked around, then back at me. I guess I like it that way, he said. Silence can be comfortable. I thought about that. Silence, comfortable or confusing. Because tonight that silence had made everything unclear. It had allowed my imagination to grow, to fill in the gaps with fear. With no sound, I said slowly, it's easy to assume things. He nodded. That's true. We both looked at the dog again. It had stopped shaking now. Its breathing was slower, more stable. I never even knew something could get inside like that, he said. Behind the cabinet? Me neither, I replied. And yet, it did. Another silence. But this one felt different, less heavy, more thoughtful. I guess I should move that cabinet, he added. We both laughed softly, a quiet, relieved laugh, the kind that comes after tension, after uncertainty, after something almost went wrong, but didn't. Do you want some water? He asked. Sure, I said. He stood up carefully, still holding the dog, and walked to the kitchen. I watched him. This person I barely knew. This quiet neighbor. And I realized something. Tonight was the longest conversation we had ever had. Not because we planned it, not because we wanted it, but because something unexpected forced it to happen. He came back with a glass of water, handed it to me. Here. Thanks. I took a sip. It felt grounding, real, like everything was slowly returning to normal. But inside me, and something had shifted, something small, but important. I almost didn't call, I admitted. He looked at me. Really? Yes, I said. I thought I might be wrong. He considered that for a moment. Maybe you were, he said. Then he paused. But maybe that doesn't matter. I frowned slightly. What do you mean? He looked down at the dog. If being wrong still leads to something right, then maybe it's not really wrong. His words stayed with me, simple but meaningful. Because tonight, I had been wrong. About the sounds, about the situation, about the danger, but I had also been right about one thing. Something wasn't okay. Something needed attention, and I had listened. Not perfectly, not accurately, but enough. I think, I said slowly, I understand that now. He smiled faintly. Good. We sat there for a while longer, talking quietly, about small things, simple things, nothing important. And yet, it felt important because it was real, because it was honest, because it wasn't based on assumptions. Eventually, I stood up. I should go, I said. Yeah, he replied. It's been a long night. I walked to the door, then stopped, turned back. Hey, I said. Yeah? Let me know if the dog needs anything. He nodded. I will. I opened the door, stepped outside. The night air felt different now, softer, calmer. I walked back to my house, slowly, thinking about everything that had happened, the sounds, the fear, the decision, the truth. And as I reached my door, one thought stayed with me. Sometimes the truth isn't what we expect, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't go looking for it. The next morning felt unusually quiet. Not the kind of quiet that makes you nervous, not the kind that fills your mind with questions, but a softer quiet, a calmer one, the kind that comes after something has been resolved. I woke up later than usual. My body felt heavy, as if it had been carrying something all night and had only just put it down. I sat up slowly, looked around my room. Everything was the same bed, the same walls, the same small details. But inside me, something had changed, not in a big dramatic way, just quietly, like a small shift in perspective. I walked into the kitchen, made a cup of coffee, and stood there for a moment, holding it in both hands, thinking about the night before, the sounds, the fear, the decision to call, and what it all turned out to be: a small dog, trapped, afraid, trying to be heard. I took a slow sip and exhaled. Then, without really planning to, I looked toward the wall. The same wall that separated my home from my neighbors. It looked so ordinary, just a wall. But now I knew how much could exist on the other side without me understanding it. I placed the cup down, walked to the door, and paused. For a second, I wasn't sure why I was doing it, but then I realized I wanted to check, not because I was worried, but because I cared. I opened the door, stepped outside. The sunlight was gentle, warm. The street looked normal again, peaceful. I walked next door, slowly, then stopped in front of his door. For a moment, I hesitated. Then I knocked, softly, once, twice. A few seconds passed. Then the door opened. My neighbor stood there. He looked a little tired, but different, more relaxed. Hey, he said. Hey, I replied. We both smiled slightly. How is everything? I asked. He stepped aside. You can come in. I entered. The house looked brighter now. The curtains were open. Sunlight filled the room, and there, on the couch, was the dog, resting, calm, its eyes half closed, a small bowl of water next to it, another with food. It looked completely different, still thin, still fragile, but no longer afraid. That's a big improvement, I said. He nodded. Yeah, he replied. It ate a little this morning. I felt a quiet sense of relief. That's good. We stood there for a moment, looking at the dog. It's strange, he said after a while. What is? How something so small can cause so much confusion. I nodded. Yes, and so much emotion. He smiled slightly. I was thinking about what you said last night. He added, that you almost didn't call. I looked down for a moment. Yeah? I'm glad you did, he said again. This time, his voice was more certain. Not just polite, not just reassuring, but real. Me too, I said quietly. And I meant it, not because everything turned out fine, but because of what I learned. We sat down, not in a hurry, not with a purpose, just sitting, talking. This place, he said, looking around his house, I've always kept it quiet. I noticed, I replied. He laughed softly. Yeah. I guess I never thought about how that might feel to someone else. I understood what he meant. Silence can mean different things. To one person, it can feel peaceful. To another, it can feel uncertain. I said slowly, when we don't have enough information, our minds try to fill in the gaps. He nodded. And sometimes, we don't fill them in correctly. Exactly. We both looked at the dog again, now sleeping, peacefully. As long as we're willing to check, he added, maybe that's what matters. I thought about that. Willing to check, willing to act, even if we're not completely sure. I think you're right, I said, because if I hadn't checked, if I had ignored the sounds, if I had told myself it was nothing, that small dog might still be trapped, still afraid, still alone. And that thought felt heavier than the embarrassment I had feared. I guess, I said, sometimes being wrong is better than doing nothing. He smiled. Yeah, I think so too. We sat in comfortable silence, not the same silence as before. This one felt different, warmer, shared. After a while, I stood up. I should let you rest, I said. He nodded. Thanks for coming by. I walked to the door, then turned back one more time. Hey, I said. Yeah? What are you going to do with the dog? He looked at it, then back at me. I don't know yet, he admitted. But for now, it can stay. I smiled. I think it would like that. Yeah, he said. I think so too. I stepped outside, closed the door gently behind me. The sunlight felt warmer now, brighter. And I walked back to my house, slowly, taking in the quiet. But now, that quiet didn't feel empty. It didn't feel uncertain. It felt full, full of understanding, full of awareness, because now I knew that behind every wall, behind every silence, there could be something we don't see, something we don't understand. And sometimes all it takes is one small decision to discover the truth. I opened my door, stepped inside, and paused for a moment, listening, just in case. Not with fear, but with attention, with awareness, because now I understood something important. Not every sound means danger, but every sound deserves to be heard. And sometimes, the truth we discover is not what we expected, but it's exactly what we needed to find. Thank you for listening. If this story made you think or helped you practice your English, take a moment to reflect on it. Have you ever misunderstood a situation? Have you ever acted even when you weren't sure? Share your thoughts. And if you want to continue improving your English through calm, meaningful stories like this, don't forget to stay with us. There are many more stories waiting for you. Stories that are not just about language, but about life.